And as we gathered here, we're going to hear tonight about an ancestor, one of the greatest scholars that the Caribbean has produced. Sometimes we see ourselves in the Caribbean and don't really value what we have. And we're going to honor the great Dr. Eric Williams of Trinidad and Tobago. He left a legacy behind. We're going to invoke his spirit tonight here. And we're going to hear by our brother the words of the great Eric Williams, who lives amongst us. He became one of those Caribbean giants, one of the greatest Caribbean thinkers. And we want to honor him tonight. Say my shit. And as we honor him tonight, we want to remember some of those who would have gone on. Remember, we were great people. We weren't slaves, but we were enslaved, as they say. And as a result, we know we had a wonderful and beautiful and gorgeous history. Par excellence. Right? And there's none that came after that could compare to that history. And it is for us to know that history and to know that we are great people. It is so very important. But this is where the freedom begins. He gives thanks to Eurekah. He gives thanks to Ramses II. He gives thanks to Ramses II. He gives thanks to Akhenaten. He gives thanks to Hatshepsut. Sometimes we don't really honor our women like we ought to, but go back in antiquity and we see Hatshepsut, one of the greatest pharaohs that ever existed. Female. And as we come along and as we go on the journey, we know we were enslaved. We know some horrible things happened to us. But that did not daunt our spirits. We fought and we fought and we fought. And tonight we want to give thanks and praise to all those who would have fought for our liberation. And I want you to join me in calling your names. Ibashe. Ibashe. Please loud. Ibashe. 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 Ibashe.
Herman Ferguson.
Ibashe. 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 And as we call these names tell a story. We're not just here calling names, but every time we call the name, we call the name of the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. It tells a story. And all these names tell, there's a story that goes along with each and every name that we call. It's for us to know that story. It is for us to follow in their footsteps. It is for us to know what we still must do as a people. Running, goom, goom, Mario. Running,
say.
Mighty rivers of Babylon, where we start flow until we find. When we remember Zion, mighty rivers of Babylon, where we start flow until we went. When we remember Zion, 'cause the wicked carry us away, God, liberty require from us the soul. How can we sing the Lord's song in our strange land? 'Cause the wicked carried us away, God, liberty require from us the soul. How can we sing the Lord's song in our strange land? Let the words of our mouth and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in thy sight. Let the words of our mouth and the meditations of our hearts
probably have talked too much, so I like to put things down on paper to keep me focused. But when I called her this morning, we went out last night, so when I called her this morning, she asked me if I had a good night's rest. I told her yes. And then she told me that she didn't sleep too well, so I asked her why. And she said it's an ancestral gene thing with her. She don't sleep very much. So I tapped into that word, ancestral gene, to introduce my sister Eurekah. And on this, and I'm going to start. Can you hear me, everybody? Yes. I'm afraid I get a little late. I have problems with my stack here. Yeah, right. Okay, thanks. On this sojourn of person unto self, to her land of her birth, after 50 plus years, Sister Eurekah is experiencing her first solo journey to Barbados. She was, in the past, she was always accompanied by children, parents, husband, grandmother, but she's on her solo journey to Barbados for the first time. This unique journey has awakened memories of phonics of our sound, the idiom of our songs. And when she said so to me today, I was saying, you know, how do Bajans really appreciate how we sound? You know, we sound good, but we're so caught up with thinking that we're going to speak the Queen's way of speaking. So when she said the phonics of our song, the idiom of our songs, and she continued and said it has also enriched her with meeting persons like herself. This community of Pan-Africanists and African-conscious people has been very enriching to her, all resulting in another stage of freedom of liberation in her life journey. Sister Eurekah says she has many hats, all resulting from her ancestral gene, I call it, of care, of concern, of love, of empowerment of self and others, and following it up with action. The professional and education hat is continued manifestation of that ancestral gene. She is a social worker. I don't think she's ever stopped being a social worker, right? And was so passionate about her responsibility of caring and action that she took it on her task of becoming a social scientist. Whatever we understand social science to be, Sister Eurekah embraced it to further understand how social issues impact on our people, addressing the demographics and sociology of ill health of our sisters. She recognized that as a minority grouping in Britain, Black women seeking medical care in a white male-dominated system needed addressing. Continuing in her caring and action, ancestral gene, this led another hat, that is the herbalist hat. Sister Eurekah, as a herbalist, seeks to deal with the major illness that affect our sisters: fibroids, depression, mental health, and breast cancer. I would say mental health. So she was telling me that what we don't understand a lot is that a lot of sisters are going through a lot of mental health trauma that is not necessarily addressed because we have a very narrow stereotype of what mental health wellness is. So a part of her herbalist thing is to address these things in our sisters. Her work is primarily with sisters. However, she knows and recognizes that as a family, our brothers are also unwell and we need to do a lot more work. In embracing the enormity of this task of attempting to assist us with our healing and empowerment, Sister Eurekah, ancestral gene of empowerment of the self as a whole in the journey, went into the worship hat of priestess. Being a priestess was a journey and continues to be a journey. As she put it, I was incorporated into being a priestess. She tapped into the elements of natural instinct. And she went on to tell me that this natural instinct is not necessarily valued as much as it is among our people because it has been killed for other things. As much as she's a social scientist, she recognized the importance of tapping into that natural instinct. It is but part of her holistic work of empowerment here, in this holistic work, she practices rites of passage. And some of the features of that, she uses the values of tradition of manhood and womanhood to identify and validate the range of who and what we are to awaken our consciousness. Now, in the next two cases, she wears another two very important hats. However, they are not ancestral genes, at least not yet. But there are gene hats, which are even ever present. I will not tell you about these gene hats. She will speak to them, and she will say that these hats, she will say that what these hats are, and speak to them with the right passion as to where all the love, empowerment, and caring are in her being, and best manifesting. I will give you all a hint. One of the genes begins with M, and one of the other genes begins with G. So on that note, she's going to speak to the M and Gene hat in a way that only she can, and only she can. In this little synopsis here of her, I introduce you to Sister Eurekah.
Okay, see I'm short, see? Greetings, everyone.
Greetings.
Really, thank you all for coming out this evening. Really, I really appreciate that. Thank you. Before I continue, just to thank my sister here for the introduction. I keep saying, is that me? That don't sound like me, but hey, thank you very much. Thank you. Some acknowledgements first to Fra, first of all, for allowing us the space here. Brother Ricardo as well for doing the flyers and advertising and the, WhatsApp or whatever you do, the Facebook. Thank you. And hard drive. Thank you. This is hard drive. Thank you. And also Baba Tafashe as well. I say Baba Tafashe because he called me 2 weeks ago and he said, Eurekah, how does this sound? Eurekah from London tells her story. I said, hey, no, that's too quick. No, I'm not ready for that. I said, I'll think about it. So I thought about it and called him back and said, okay, I'll do it. I'm here in Barbados and it's my land, right? I'm born here. So in truth though, I didn't have to think about it because I was living my purpose. I knew I was here for a reason. Not sure why, but as my sister said, I am on a solo journey. It's not even a journey, it's a sojourn. That for my person is a way forward, a way to see who I am, what I'm about, and where I'm going. So, Baba Tafashe, blessings to your person. Oh, thank you. So I'm here. I've got my little notes here because I don't want to kind of run over time or, waffle, and I'm going to be moving around. So when I move around, it's because I'm moving to get the hips moving because they've got arthritis in the hips, so I'm moving around, okay? Okay. I do want to give thanks to our creators first. And I say creators because to get the balance, it's male and female energy. So for our ancestors, for our creators, but also for our mothers. Our mothers are our creators. We all in this room came through a woman, and we have given birth to nations, nations upon nations. So that for me is the thing I think about as women. So for me, my mother passed away in 2004. She was formidable. She's left me with a legacy, and for my person, it's important that I continue that legacy. And as for the ancestors, well, let me tell you about the ancestors now. The ancestors, as my brother said, we are standing on the shoulders of the ancestors. Without them, we wouldn't be here. But the ancestors in particular, they are unemployed. You have a dole office here or unemployment office here, the ancestors are like that. They sit, lounge, chill back, kick back, waiting for us to call on them. And they need work. So unless we actually tap into those ancestors, they're unemployed. They don't do anything for us. We have to call on them, exalt their names, call upon them to help us, because we need help, right? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So for my person in particular, I use the word my person if you're thinking, oh, why am I saying that word? The word me is ambiguous. It don't mean much to me anyway. But my person, I'm speaking from my person to your persons, from my mind, body and spirit. I am whole, as in holistically I'm speaking to you all. So me sounds a very ambiguous word. And I like language. I love the way language you can drop it, move it, change it. So it's about using our language and how we can empower ourselves, okay? Okay. So before we continue, I should say first that my whole name is Eurekah. It doesn't mean I found it, that's the Greek meaning, but it means messenger of God or goddess. I'm a messenger. However I have become messenger, it is the way it is. So I have to accept my role as a woman and go from there, all right? But I'd like us to, first of all, just to take time out and just to close our eyes and do a breathing exercise, all right? So just kind of still the mind, the body and the spirit. You all must have worked today, stresses. This is about just taking time out. So if you could just close your eyes, okay? Just take time to close your eyes. Breathe in through your nose and hold it for a count of 5, and then breathe out through your mouth. So it's in through your nose, hold for a count of 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe out through your mouth. Breathe in through your nose again. Hold for a count of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe out through your mouth. Breathe in through your nose again. Breathe in. Deep breath this time. Hold it for a count of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And release all that negative energy. Any thoughts that you've got, any stresses, anything that's on your shoulders, in your mind, just empty your mind completely. Just be cool, calm and rested. And see yourself as feeling very peaceful. So breathe in through your mouth, your nose again. Breathe in, hold for a count of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And release that through the out breath. When you're ready, you can open your eyes and just feel rested. Okay? I needed that too. I needed that. Okay? Alright. As my sister said, I wear many hats. I wear one tonight, right? But the one that I wear and have worn the most is the biggest, hardest, and it's certainly by far the largest hat I've ever worn. And that's the hat of mother. I'm a mother. The M. I'm a mother of 4 adults, 2 sons and 2 daughters. My eldest son is 40. Next one, Lee, is 36, 33. My daughter's 33, and my last daughter's 25. They're great people, and I really want to give thanks to them because they allowed my person to have this journey. They knew I needed the journey to be here. Also, I give thanks to my emperor. He knows who he is. He's in London. He also allowed my journey to be. He knew I needed this journey. So I'm giving thanks to him and his family, Mr. and Mrs. Lecky as well. But for my adults, my 2 sons and my 2 daughters, they have brought my person the most joy. And I said, now the G's coming, right? But I know that for my person, and this might sound a strange thing, but children grow you up. I had to learn how to grow up when I had my adults. They taught me a lot. They taught me how to be. And mothering is the hardest, and parenting, not just mothering, parenting is the hardest job you'll ever have to do. The reason why is because you've got to love them, nurture them, feed them, water them, make sure that they sustain their person. You have to make sure that they're not mentally ill or in prison. In London, our hospitals are full of mentally ill people. Full. Mainly men are in the institutions, and mainly men are in prisons. So for us, having 2 sons, you have to be careful how you raise them And they all need fathers. They do that. And I've had to raise my men without a father figure. And that was hard, very, very hard. So I can see little glitches, how they turned out to be men, but I can see little minor faults that I did the best, because men need fathers, and daughters too. However, that was the hardest hat I've had to wear, and I'm still wearing it, because they still require me to talk to them, share with them, learn with them, and it's reciprocity. They're learning, I'm teaching them, and both of us are all growing. So for me, that's a way forward. The next hat, the G, is I'm a grandmother. I'm a grandmother of 13 grandchildren. My oldest grandson is 18. What can I say about being a grandparent? Hey, it's a new generation. It's an opportunity for my person to also learn from my past mistakes too. And I ain't too big to learn, right? Because we all need to learn. Okay. So, yeah, they are my life. They allow me to be, to think who I am. As I said, they help to grow you up. And grandchildren are the next generation who, again, I've got a lot to learn with them. And they teach my person and vice versa. That's just one hat that I'm wearing. But the other hats that I love to wear, I love singing, I love dancing, I love drumming, and I'm learning kick drum at the moment as well. But most of all, I think I love studying. I love education. Not necessarily the Western education. I love to learn new things about us as a people. But I love language. I'm studying sign language now. I've got British Sign Language. I love your face, you know. My sister there just smiled at me. Thank you. Yeah, I just love study. I love the way we can use our language. And as my sister said, it's the way we use the Bajan words. Now I've come back home and I can say home in English, or I can say home in Bajan. So when I think how I can be bilingual, that for me is powerful. Because I'm hearing sounds that, the vernacular of it, the idioms of it, the tones, that I am just re-familiarising myself with those words that I didn't do before. So I'm hearing our language now, and believe me, our language is rich, you know. It's so rich, and we sometimes feel ashamed of it, but don't be ashamed, you know. It's our language, it's our empowerment to our identity. And we have to claim that. Not true, isn't that true? That's right, okay. So I'm learning sign language. So in sign language, it's British. And here in Barbados, it's American Sign Language. But so, for example, when you listen to sign language in England, they have things reversed. So they might say my name is, it's nothing like that. They will say, name me. So it's complete transformation of words. And you think, okay, it sounds really strange, but you look at sometimes how we speak. So I heard a statement that the shoe heel is longer than the dress that the girl is wearing. But really we would have said the dress is shorter than the shoe heel. You see what I mean? That's what we would have said, but the language is powerful. So I want us to embrace that. My next hat is, as my sister said, I'm a herbalist. Now, I love anything to do with health, medicine, herbs, anything that pertains to our people. For my person, that's my priority, is to work with us. Because why? It's because we are the sickest in the whole world. We have the highest fibroid rate amongst us as African sisters, the highest. Men, also our brothers, have prostate cancer. The rates are rising steadily in England. I'm not sure about here, but I remember my sister friend said it's very similar, the rates are rising also. So in terms of how we look after ourselves and empower our person, we have to empower ourselves in terms of what we do to help ourselves. I worked in the community for 42 years. As my sister, I'm a social worker, still a social worker, still doing social work amongst our people. And as a health consultant, I think I'd want to say a little bit more about that, because I worked in a health clinic in London and worked with another brother called Dr. Patrick Montague, fantastic person. We worked together, we had a clinic, a walking clinic on appointment, just for our people. And we came across all types of ailments, anything. It was from cancer to breast problems to cysts, you name it, our people had it. Manners. And it allowed us to kind of really explore where we were going with the clinic. It was open for a year, but because of funding, etc., it got closed down. So now I either work from home or I go to visit people in their house. And there are different challenges for us as people, and I'm not sure even if these challenges are the same here that we're experiencing. If there's a number of people here who have fibroids, is the fibroid rates here quite high?
It's not about that. It's sensuality. A lot of us don't even know what it feels like. We've probably never had it, but we have to be mindful of it. How we embrace who we are with other people, because that energy gets left behind. So we have to be mindful of that. I've got a few minutes left, so I'm going to be quick. But I want to ask you another question, or is if you can tell me how much medication I'm on at this moment in time, and if you can give me the answer, I'll give you a free one of my free books. So if you can tell me how much medication am I taking, 20 tablets a day, 10, 30.
No.
Oh,
Yeah,
no. Well, not your assistance for you, right? But yeah, why am I taking none? Any answers? Why am I taking none?
Herbs.
Herbs, yeah. Ancestral. Mindset, yes. Yeah.
Cleanse.
Hmm?
You cleanse yourself.
Cleanse, detox. I can't emphasize the need to detox your person. You detox is a herb. I'll tell everybody my favourite herb, and it's called milk thistle. It detoxes the liver and the kidneys. I'm not saying that I'm 100% well. No, I'm not 100% well. But you know what? I'm working what I have. And I am on no medication. When I go to hospital, they say, bring all your tablets with you. So people go there with the labels or the push trolley with their bags and bags of drugs. I don't have one. What I do go with, though, is my notebook. Go with my notebook and a book called the B and F book. If you can get the B and F book, get that book. Because it arms you with ammunition. It empowers your person. And that's the same book.
British National Formula.
That's what it's called. And that's the book that the doctors use. So get yourself on Amazon, wherever you can get a hold of it, and learn about your own medication. The drugs are killing us. They're making us sick. Because in the drug world, it's about making money. They are legitimate drug dealers. So we have to empower ourselves. If you've got grandchildren, teach them too. Teach them the herbs. Talk to them in a story. Make it fun so they also learn. That's what I do with my grandchildren. So they learn, they can get lavender, they can drink for asthma, allergies. Teach them the herbs. Alright? I know I want to do some Q&A, but I don't have time for that. So is there any questions? Yes?
Milk thistle.
Milk thistle.
How do you,
It's a seed. It comes in a seed. So what you do, you boil it. Not important. You steep it for a little while and then put it in the salt spoon with some hot water and just simmer it. You can drink that 3 times a day for 3 months. So you do 3 months on, a month off, 3 months. But there's a time when we need to work with the moon elements. We are female and men energy, right? So sometimes we have both in our person. So, for example, when the agriculturists are sowing their land, they look towards the moon, the stars, the sun. Certain operations they will tell you, don't do operations or have surgery during a certain time because you never will survive. So, for example, in London, if you have an operation on Friday, you're less likely to live. Less likely to live. So we need to look at the energy of the moon, the female energy, and the male energy. So new moon means that we work with new things. If you want to set goals for that time, check the new moon, write them out, put them on your ancestral shrine. And we should all have a shrine in our house that works for us, that we can then do libations and offerings, to our ancestors. Because they are who have made my person who I am. Any other questions?
So
Immunisation, if you want that immunisation, go and look at the book on vaccination, the African traditional book. Don't immunise your child. Try and get some information on homeopathic remedies. Homeopathic remedies work with like equal like. So it's to strengthen your children. Too many of our children have autism, and they are giving them Ritalin, Ritalin, whatever you want to call it. They're just drugging up our children. Think about boy children, you know. So think about that. You know, I'm not saying not to do it, but I'm saying educate your person first, which empowers you. So when you go to your doctor, you can say, no, I don't want it because such and such. All right? Any other questions? Have you enjoyed the day?
The problem is I read it.
You can't.
Listen, no, that's not true. There's a way around it.
No, but
There's a way around it.
It's not true.
when you go to the school for the first time, you have to family card.
No. People in our organization, you go and you get exemption from.
Yes.
You take that to the school.
Okay,
And
okay.
they're allowed in school.
Exempt for, okay.
Exempt.
Oh, okay, some people don't know that, which is good, okay.
Yes, by religion as well.
So, yeah, good. So,
So you can get the exemption from based by religion.
religion, okay. And if you're not religious, to make it up.
Yeah.
Just make, listen, we're in a system that's got us part of the truth. They're trying to mess with our heads. So we have to empower and own our own person. We are the body. We live in this body. We cannot hand over our bodies to those who don't know us. We cannot hand over our minds to them that don't know us. You know, our minds are our minds. So we have to empower ourselves. You know, so too many of us, don't eat painkillers. They're called painkillers, but they kill us. That's the word, painkillers. So they ain't leaving nothing. So we have to be conscious of that. So that's a question.
Thank you so much for what you shared.
Thank you.
But also, in regards to your health, have you noticed a change in the time that you've been here? Has kind of coming from London, from, you know, I tend to call it frozen hills, but that's not everybody's sentiment.
Yeah.
But you're way up there in someone else's environment.
For sure.
Have you noticed a change, a shift in energy, in your body, in your health, in your thinking, all of those things in being here?
I'm smiling. You know, I'm smiling. I've met some beautiful people, and that in itself has made my person feel so much better. I'm looking at people that look like my face, are the same. I'm feeling good about that. But to answer your question, I'm mentally and physically and spiritually well. I feel, I'm not 100%, and I'm still getting pains here and there, but you know what? I'm home, man. I'm home. So for my person, it's the best thing that can happen. I'm going to be back doing other things, and I'd like to know that if I have met you, or person, you are my family. That's how I see you all. If you see me next time, or to tap me and say, you know what, remember when you were here? I know you now. So that to me has touched my heart. I love people, and people make us happy. You know, so I have, and I'm smiling because I'm feeling blessed. The only thing I would say to people here about Barbados, disability is not first and foremost. So, for example, I have a stair lift in my house because I can't get upstairs. So it means that I have to use my stair lift sometimes. And it means also I have a blue badge for disabled drivers, and I can't travel by bus. But here I've had to learn to be strong. I've had to get on the bus or the van, hold on for dear life, and the bus going so, you know, so I have to just learn how to adapt, you know, so, and I have. So I can't tell anybody, please can I have your seat, because they're going to say, look at you. You ain't no, you know, you lot just feel chicken, so I'm not going to get no seat. You know, so I couldn't tell anybody that. So they would think I'm lying. I even get cussed in London. They'll say, how come you're parking there? That's not for you. So I've had to learn to adapt, to be strong, to be, just walk in my truth, in my shoes. And I'm happy. So I want to thank you all so much. You're beautiful people. Thank you. Thank you.
At this time, you know, you all can do a little stretch because we aim for another powerful presentation from Trevor. You know, just free up a little. You know, Sister Rita gave us a lot of food. Right. I think anybody, right? Everybody knows Trevor. Right? Everybody knows Trevor. I just assume that everybody knows Trevor. I don't have to introduce Trevor. So I did not call Trevor. I asked him to tell me something about himself. So I would just ask Trevor to come and speak to us on his understanding of Dr. Eric Williams' work, From Capitalism to Slavery, capitalism and slavery, right? And he's going to look at this work was published 50 years ago, and Trevor is looking to give us an understanding of his understanding of what that work has meant to us as a Caribbean people, a Pan-Africanist people, in our quest for development and looking after our people's well-being. So Trevor is all yours, and Trevor, we have.
Good evening, brothers and sisters. I must tell you, this is the first occasion I have actually applied myself within a short space of time to trying to analyze the work of Dr. Eric Williams, distinguished Caribbean leader, Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. But while I was listening to the sister this evening, some thoughts came to mind that helped me to better even understand what it is that I was looking at. I don't even know where to put it. You see it there, it's kind of, I think I can remember what I want to say. There's a tendency for us to believe that this is not no, I get it, it will come. I also believe that there are always spiritual guidance, ontological relationships, and inspirations as well. And I think that is what I gather from you this evening, as well as you journey through what I call a verbal autobiography, if one can make that point. You wrote words in our hearts about yourself, and we didn't know, but it tells a story about some of the great challenges that we as a people experience. And it shows us how we can overcome the challenges which we face by not always sticking to orthodox approaches, handing down the metropolitan models. You use your own creative imagination to help you to use what might be perceived as things that are original, but is also rooted in the African retentions which we all share as Black people. And this book has to be indicted when it is also celebrated for allowing such important elements of our uniqueness as a people in being responsible for our own liberation, so to speak. And I didn't want to really say things like that, but I think even when you celebrate the great quality of the work coming at the correct time in the history of our people, and when we have great respect to have a scholar, a Black scholar, our Caribbean nature will be given global recognition as far back as 1964, 50 years ago. We must also be realistic in trying to understand what the metropolitan world do to us. That they did not give us education before analyzing what it is that they were doing, because they knew why we should not have it in the first place. from the time we were enslaved, the new white education was a dangerous weapon, not only to enlightenment's sake, or for aesthetic or for aesthetic purposes, but they understood that education can be used against the oppression and the actual enslavement of people. You give them a sense of identity, a sense of equality. You also give them a weapon for their own liberation. And many scholars prior to Eric Williams, they understood this. And they never really give us a holistic picture of what was actually done to us on a clear, multifaceted ideological position. And what Williams did, and must be admired, is that Williams attempted to fill that empty space by focusing almost exclusively on the economic phenomenon in the analysis of, in this book, Capitalism as Slavery. Williams really, where many historians, especially economic historians, because there are lots of people who believe that the only historians are real historians are those who talk about economic history. And this is a new trend as well. And that's why I tell you, education keeps jumping at us all the time. And our people fall victim to it. When a government fails to do what it ought to do, they look for reasons. And they point to education. They say, you are receiving education at the University of West Indies that is useless. It has no utility value. So you ought to be doing certain disciplines at the university. You're spending money in the humanities, it's a waste of time. And some of the people that tell you that are the people who 50 years ago were telling you that in order to become a person with the required refinements in language and the humanities and subjects like sociology and political science, and reading up the important literature of the Greeks and the Romans and so on. These are the very people who are now telling you in this country that the education which you are receiving at the University of the West Indies is a waste of time. So nobody wants anybody now. Obama is also one of the wicked criminals in the exercise too. Because, and politeness must not always allow sentiments to rule the reality. Because he too felt that there was a necessity for us to focus our attention on things like science and technology. And he did. He did it. But he feels these are the subjects that are necessary after the economists like Greenspan and all of these men allow the economy to collapse in the United States of America, that he cannot find a reasonable excuse for what was responsible for the collapse. I read a few days ago, and because this is a nice preamble so you can understand what I'm talking about, because Eric Williams was well credited for filling the space. He excludes other variables that ought to be applied. So the whole concept of spirituality, although the thesis also makes reference to voodooism, he almost makes voodooism so marginal or insignificant in the exercise, yet they tell us that every revolt, almost, for some reason, there was a common thread, because most of them were led by African-born slaves. And I want you to understand where we're coming from here. So you went to Jamaica, and you had coffee, and you had acha. You come to Barbados, and you had Jarabusa. So wherever you turn, people who were of African origin was playing a central role any revolt, like Destiny in Haiti. But what Williams is saying to us in Capitalism is Slavery, as he journeyed from as far back as the Treaty of Torres, when they had when not United States or not Britain at this time, but Spain and Portugal was in charge of things. And then, after coming to the New World and finding all at the time that they found, they divided up the lands and gave Portugal, Brazil, and Spain held on to the rest. All the historians prior to Williams spoke of the good work, because remember, the historians who wrote then were all British. So they had their own perspective. And all of them spoke almost exclusively of the good works of the great philanthropists, the benevolent fathers who rescued us in Britain itself. Now I give Williams the credit, of course, because Williams did not speak so much about the philanthropists. He gave economic reasons at every point for the actual decline in the economy and the decline of the West Indian interests and the parliamentarians of Britain at the particular time in the economies of the colony. He tried to point out, look, economic things were happening, the dynamics in the economy, things were happening. Sugar was on the decline. Sugar was on the decline. You were having soil exhaustion in some of these colonies itself. And he then tried to make it appear that, and I want to do it this way tonight because I know that we have a long journey of the sisters' experience. And I don't want us to go much longer because the capacity of even me is limited in this regard. But we know on the eve of that emancipation, we saw a whole set of revolts. Now, in the economic historian analysis, the revolts are not recorded in the book itself, not in any great detail. So he writes this book, which became a celebrated piece of timeless material in the history of the Caribbean that other historians, Hispanic, British historians, Caribbean historians looked at the material and they said, yes, this is something new. And it is really helpful to us as well, a lot. Because to some extent, what we're going to have to do for our request or our call for reparations before the International Court itself, the material that you have coming from Williams gives us some good guidelines, apart from what Beckles has recently produced and Dr. Shepard and others produced in recent times. It has given us some good guidelines of some of the strong economic arguments we will have to advance in order to use it as a scientific way of calculating how that compensation in the form of reparations ought to be worked out. So you can't knock him for that at all. My concern about him is even if we say the Pan-African strand, because do not believe that scholarly work exclude ideological positions. Scholarly work do not exclude ideological positions. Men, conscious or not, always hold an ideological position. When they write from a perspective of a body of beliefs which they hold. So Clarkston would be mentioned in this book. And the Somerset case will be highlighted in this book. And the work of William Wilberforce at the 11th hour on the eve of 1833 will be highlighted in this book, and these men were given credit in the book. And fundamental questions also came up. And this is normally a question you get at the university investigating. Did slavery emerge out of racism, or did racism emerge out of slavery? Now all the texts before, there is a book by Winthrop Jordan. It talks about all the expressions and views of racism that existed and how people felt that we were inferior. And obviously, the book also reflects, some of these books prior to Williams reflect on white and Negro, the word that was approved then. When we say black now, and probably from around the 1960s, we abandoned the word Negro as well as the word nigger, although there's some young, innocent buffoons in the form of artists, which people would want me to say that because it would not be popular. But the reality is these people resuscitated a word that was coined by the white man during the period of slavery for the most backward, inferior type of what they call Negroes at this specific time. And when we dismiss the word Negro, another group of our people resuscitated the word nigger in the vocabulary as young people. So I am a nigger, and feels proud about it. And most people who with a modicum of intelligence like me, when I hear it, this is really madness. It rose almost mushroom overnight, and it moved rapidly away from the vocabulary of most people, probably within 10 years or so, as people become more conscious of themselves and know that they're indicting themselves as an inferior. They change perspective on these use of language as the sister talked about. So what you were saying to me, you're talking about your story. I was listening to you, and as you say, you can make reference to it, what I'm doing. I was listening to you because I know that the creative imagination begins to play as well. But I know that because sometimes we don't know who we are, and we don't know how some people try to carve out a space for us and make us subhuman, if not the most extreme form of beast. We continue to believe that we really live and understand what life is and what happiness is, even at the highest form of what you refer to in terms of sex and how we behave towards each other as human beings and so on. I don't understand the importance of humanity and words of that kind, right? So Williams, I will a little, but I don't want to say this about because I keep saying he did fill a space that was not there. But sometimes there's always sometimes when we speak of the work of people and we say it is good, we sound as though it is absolute, that almost everything about it is good. So if it is so good, what about the other people? And this is my concern. And Williams was very close to C.L.R. James, and that's why he brought the book, because I just want to, by looking at it, reflect on it. When James wrote the thesis prior to Williams' book in the Black Jacobins,
prior to James?
Prior to James, when James wrote the book, prior to Williams' Capitalism, Slavery, C.L.R. James was given great credit to how we were influenced by the thinking of the Jacobins in France. and how we held on to three fundamental principles of the French Revolution, which came in 1789. And he said, what energized the people, the mantra that energized the people of the time was the whole concept of fraternity, equality, and justice. I think over the three principles. Now, again, when we admire that book by James was saying, in my view, that there was also another strand that obviously Williams did not include in his text, because he's saying economics. He's saying the British accumulated so much wealth and built Britain, and he spoke about all the great mansions. If you go, there's a section in the book that speaks about the West Indian interest, and it talks about all the mansions that were developed in Britain. So again, you see how economics built the strength of England, but more so the strength of this special social type, and now enter into the political mainstream of the British Parliament. So you had what we call absentee planters running about the streets in buggies. They call it buggies, a horse, a car, wearing them long swizzle-tail coats, all across Britain, up and down campaigning. And they were winning pockets of political support all around Britain. At one time, they had about 4 different brothers in the House Assembly in Britain itself. As a result of the wealth that they extracted and the brutality of the black people in the region, they were winning political power, economic power in Britain. And Williams points to when sugar began to decline and these people did not have the strength inside Britain. I think that we need to stretch ourselves some more, because I would like to believe that reasonable men would also divert. When they see economy shifting, they would divert the investment into other areas itself. And as far as I know, there are still families alive today that are still very wealthy, and they certainly are not involved in the extraction of wealth from the region directly, or probably is more disguised now, but they're still very wealthy, still own the mansions, still living in Britain at present. But he said that they become very unpopular, and as a result of that, the philanthropist in Britain was able to penetrate and influence the thinking of the parliamentarians in the House. Are you going to allow this to happen to us out of the Haitian Revolution itself in 1791? Started in 1791. Don't mind what the Americans and the French did thereafter, and never really gave the emancipation, which they call constitutional document emancipation, and they can't even call it a true emancipation then, because it went till around 1823, but then also tell them that they had destroyed the property of France, and that they have to pay back France for the black people that they killed in the Haitian Revolution. The whites killed us, but we were property. And then the whites calculate the damage done and told us, if you want freedom, you pay it back. And then the Americans played the role of the Medicaid and used to ensure that the Haitians pay back the money to France through the United States of America. And you know, France, it was Haiti that was so productive. All the barren land that you hear people talking about now, Haiti was so productive that what the British was saying to us, and the historians were writing, Barbados was the gem in the British crown. The French were saying Haiti was the gem in the French crown. And they were supplying more sugar, better quality sugar, Haiti, better quality sugar to Europe than any of the other countries within the Caribbean. Let's say that James, in my view, cannot ignore, and I find that this is a problem which I have. I don't know how Rodney sees himself, but I think Rodney is more philosophical than that. But this one-track approach to the analysis of history, as I said, well, I compliment him for the work that he has done because nobody was looking at the economic aspect. But I can't support the concept that tells me that economics and economics alone, because it goes right back to what the sister was saying and what I am saying. Look, there's a group of people in the Caribbean now that walk around with this acronym called STEM. The four most important areas of education. I had the privilege, I don't go back to that book, I don't want it to get mixed up. STEM. STEM is science, technology, I think economics, engineering, and mathematics. The same people that, as I told you before, that felt the classics were so important are now telling us that we have to make these changes. They can't pay for tertiary education in a country like this. And a reaction to not being able to manage a system caused men to believe that the system is so dysfunctional. That is dysfunctional because you're doing subjects that don't have any utility value. They cannot move forward production. So everybody responding now to what the businessman is doing. Everybody was saying we have to be productive. We need to accumulate wealth. But nobody is interested in refined thoughts. You have people like Apple is telling you that about 25% of their staff are trained in the humanities. They are trained in the humanities. It's not just about making a computer. Because people in the humanities are not dismissing because they don't want the argument, just like they don't want to dismiss James or dismiss somebody because they're doing mathematics and say because they did history or somebody did political science or somebody did languages, English language and so on. Because these same people will come and tell you can't spell, you know, and that they don't know about the syntax. You know, these same people tell you that. You can't even construct a sentence well. You know, you think of it's called morphology. You know what you put A after this and what you put E before this. You understand these things? They tell you if you don't know that, you really don't even know the Queen's language. But on the other hand, these things now are to be relegated. And I keep saying this to you because in my view, when you begin to examine scholars, it's not just about understanding. And that's why some people dismiss history, because it's not just about understanding treaties. It's not just about understanding that there's a big debate going on whether the British came here in 1625 or 1627, and somebody take no history because Columbus discovered, and then if a man got enough sense to understand meanings of words, he wouldn't. St. Williams was one of the first persons that said, discover, you can't discover where somebody already lived. You can't start history in 1627 here, and then another historian or scholar tells you no. There were people here in 365 and 68. Huh? So even shadow.
Yeah.
Huh? These are historians. But you had people coming here even before 1620. We saw buildings, but there were no people. At least we write history for us. And because they're trying to make us believe that you should really value people believing that they've done you anything wrong, that slavery was a legitimate exercise, that the British wrote in a book that you were chattel and therefore you were not human beings, and everybody found a rationale for justifying why a black man should not be perceived as Homo sapien or anything like that. So you have to be dealing with that. So I think that what I would like to see and what I would like to see historians doing more, and probably people like us, because as the sister indicated there, you know, I want to do this here. This is a synopsis too. As the people, as you indicated there, you've been able to relatively heal yourself from many complex things. You went to professional persons. So you had the best professional treatment and things like that. But you study yourself and you apply certain things. Sometimes when we begin to analyze situations, I'm talking about serious analysis, we must not just continue to repeat and perpetuate, because that is the intention of education itself. I saw we had a man here, one called Dr. Yates from Guyana, and he was at the Israel Love Foundation, and he had a strange way of working out mathematical calculations. He didn't go to university, just like other people. I'm not saying by that, but that's again the other thing. I'm not saying by that university education is not, because I can't be arguing and saying that is not as important. But Dr. Yates worked out all different new formulas, new models, new approaches, and got back the same answer that the people who were teaching in the schools were getting back. And people can't understand. He said he did it because he studied this work thoroughly, and he began to work on. That's how new models come up from time to time. That is why you have people now who years ago, we call it, the metric system that you see a lot. You see different forms of calculation. Parents, I make A's and things, now my children come and tell me, show them, so I know how you're doing. I can get up the answer for you. But any teacher getting word and say, but you do all the calculations, you know, this looks like abstract art. This is not really relevant to you. But I said, well, got the answer. So what the Caribbean wanted, and Williams to some extent helped in cultivating, was new approaches to analysis. But I personally believe that the analysis because you talk about reality, it has to be more multifaceted. It has to take into consideration if the trends are consistent and you're seeing the African in the forefront of the revolutions that change conditions, then you have to apply yourself to how practical that is. Just as the sister said, she had a revelation at a specific time and she knew her identity. You will always consider that to be comedy if you can't apply yourself to that kind of perspective of our reality. Although you're seeing evidence, empirical evidence showing you how the spirituality is impacting on our reality. Now, I'm not saying that philanthropists did not contribute. I'm not saying that these minds who feel for us did not contribute. I'm not saying that you go by Christopher Cottington, he left Cottington College, but he had slaves too. So I didn't write anything and tell you what a great man he was, and he left Cottington College for us and these kind of things. I found that this book, and Joy, this is why I had to do it this way. But I really took notes. I don't take notes. I don't take notes. I don't know. When I read notes, I write it. I feel that I should, if I write it, I'm going to put it there, I should be able to talk about it without having to have the notes present. But I felt that if we had a long time, sometimes some people want to hear notes, and they want me to tell you who are the people that own the mansions. I don't think that is what I'm here for. Because there's a passage where you want the books support the buildings that stay, so that at least the family, I hope will get some royalties out of the book. Right? Do that. But there's a passage in here, you just go to this section and mark West Indian interest. And you can see a whole set of names which I can off here. How much the house costs, how much you make the thing cost, all of that. Other people, other writers will tell you about how many industrial revolution came into play, and try to give you the impression that as the industrial revolution came into play as well, the interest shift. So you got different writers writing exclusively or just making two specific points. And when I read a whole text on that, I'm telling you that this is what has happened. You know, what is ironic about this same book? Apart from Columbus to Castro and Inner Hunger and other books which he wrote, what is ironic about this same book? Is that when the Black Power uprising occurred in Trinidad and Tobago, that Williams felt that this book should be among those which was perceived as subversive information. And that if he allowed this book to continue to circulate. Now here is things starting already. The volcano already began to erupt. People there pulled a book off the market. I don't know if you see that during the time people go read the book, and then they said, well, we got a report. But he pulled the book off the market, and a number of other texts and books are now back on the market. The books are done in the university, in the West Indies, and so on. And I think one of the biggest critics really of Williams, and not critics, this is more scholarly criticism, which is both acknowledging the good and the bad, was a man called Seymour Drescher. And you will see Drescher expressing his views about this. Okay. Let me, it is a bit sudden. It's a bit sudden, but let me just say, Joy, the audience, I basically just certainly I don't want to at least give any intensive indictment on William's work. As I said to you, it is a timeless piece of material, but it's still the test of time for 50 years. It is still a main text. In the University of West Indies, it's still a main text in many universities across the world. As I said, he filled a space that nobody did before him. Others followed, others criticized. I'm sorry that I did not have enough time to talk about Seymour. The thesis. I probably another night around you would come and let you some more on the contribution. Thank you very much.
You know, there's both our male and female debates happening have given us some very good information. And you know, there's this whole school of thought of what is information and what is knowledge. And this is something that will be coming through in 2 lectures. We have information, and it's our responsibility to transform that information into knowledge, into understanding of purpose, into understanding who our ancestors, into understanding how we build on the work of our ancestors as they have gone. There are gaps in the work, but more importantly, there's the work. And there's the work that we can look back on. Like Eurekah, we only know Eurekah in terms of Greek, but here's Eurekah in terms of Africa. So there's another set of knowledge coming forth. So what I want us to do is to give us a clap for listening, for understanding.
One for information and another one for knowledge.
Yeah. And those linkages that we made, how healing yourself is also about healing a nation, and healing ourselves is about betterment for our people. But at the end of the day, there's no Pan-Africanism. It's about how do we have good people, healing people, people that are not suffering from all kind of, she was on the phone with psychosis, So, and see that little baby there? We want when she grew up in the world, in the Barbados tomorrow, that she don't have the kind of challenges that we have now. So, John here has another important part of this whole process. Come on, John,
We're just trying to keep these programs going, right? And we even want to have this as a pretty ongoing Friday night session here at Radical Village. But there's a cost attached. And I'm saying if you can, we talk about sell, maybe in the future we'll sell the food. I don't know, we still sell the food tonight. I can't see you selling food tonight. We want to be able to at least cover the cost of the food so we have the money to provide more food next time we meet it. Right? So whatever you can give, please give. If you can't, still eat. Okay.
So you see how it comes back now, the whole question of how important the mixing of everything is. And so go on.
Only if I could have 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
2 minutes. You can see that on our past masters. 2 minutes.
Microphones have no interest to me, but I just wanted to respond to say what fine presentations we had tonight. And they're particularly meaningful to me. I am involved in STEM. I spent half my life in the drug industry, developing drugs and stuff, and I also was involved in studying bush medicine. And I just think that the way I think we had our eyes opened, our minds lifted tonight. On the one hand, we heard about rites, and then on the other hand, we heard how ritual has to be brought back into history. And I'm just looking forward to talking to you guys after.
And how important it is to keep to your word. 2 minutes and he did it, I got that important message over. And tonight has been good, and this is still open for, I'm conscious of the time, but if anybody have anything that they want to share, feel free. Yes, Sharon?
When I first read the ads, I said, but these two topics are so extreme. But tonight I realized that there was some overlapping. There was some overlapping. I don't know if y'all noticed what the sister said and then what the brother said. So, we kind of put things together, but in the interest of time, we have to wrap up. But it would have been really good if we could. But another time, but there was overlapping with this.
Rodney, any other Rodney? Rodney?
The doc is very quiet.
Big drawing over people. Rodney, you got 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
So in terms of Traverse presentation, I wanted to ask him some questions. I figured that I was asking these questions another time, but I was still raise one or two of these questions. He is kind of critiquing William's focus on economics But if you follow the economic argument to its logical conclusion, then the economic is also going to impact on revolt and uprising because there's a cost. There's a cost to maintain armies. There's a cost to whenever there is a revolt, plantations, I mean, the sugar is being burnt, all kinds of things. So this is also a cost. And the other point is that the book is a brilliant book. It is a brilliant book not because Williams was a brilliant scholar, that is also part of it. But Williams at the time was very involved with the International African Service Bureau, which was the leading Pan-Africanist organization in London. In fact, he was very close to CLR James, as you made mention of. But he was also involved with the activity happening in Britain at the moment. So this is why the book is a brilliant book. And it's because he was rubbing shoulders with the real struggle taking place on the ground. So that's all I really want to say.
And Robbie, thank you for that, because what it identified is the theme that running through. That any brilliance coming out of war, people have it quote unquote STEM in Africa.
I really want to say that that's why we have to work together, because Roger is correct. At the time in our history, we had some of the best Caribbean scholars working together. Even in Williams emerging as a prime minister and a great leader, the man who wrote Black Jacobin and Williams, which is CLR James, worked in the same political organization. So you see something?
We know! 2 minutes, boy!
Because James was the secretary to the African PNP, and many of the ideas, policies, and programs in the early stages, Williams was influenced by what James and his wife was doing inside the PNM at the specific time. And that relationship stretched itself over to the African continent.
It didn't last long.
It didn't last long, but it still stretched itself over to the African
And this song,
continent.
yeah.
And it had a tremendous impact on what was happening in places like Ghana, with the formation, with the coming to power of Kwame Nkrumah and the formation of the UNIA.
I don't know what.
Sorry.
I'm not sure what topic he is on for next Friday. So that's it.
Yeah.
I don't know what. Sorry.
Can I
Sorry.
say
Sure,
something?
sure.
Listen,
I'm just a victim because we recognize the time.
I was born here in Barbados. I'm a white father and a black mother. When I was 9, 10 years, my mother used to take me to Downing, here in Dublin, where opposite Bethel Church, to wait for my father, for weekends for me to go with my father in St. Philip. Sometimes if she didn't catch him there, she would take me to the Aquatic Club, which is now closed up. There, he and his wife inside playing in the yacht club. Now, why I'm saying this is, no historian has said
You were in the cruising club. You were in the cruising club, or you were in the yacht club?
Me and my mother was back, so she had to go to the
Cruising club, right? It was in cruising club.
Aquatic Club.
Right, yeah.
That's the
That's the one for.
true weird
Holidays.
We had men like Nancy Cox, Crawford,
Right.
the first Governor General, George Scott, all those guys in there that had white wives, English wives, in the yacht club.
Yeah.
They couldn't go to Bradley Adams. Tom and mother was over in the yacht club.
Yeah, really important.
One moment I'm saying, no, it's to sit down and write to teach the youngsters that come today, because they think that Barbados today is like all the time. It should be taught in some schools about things that happen. You know what I'm saying? But nobody pays attention to that. We should teach it. I blame both governments for that. Because when Bar came back and saw what was going on, he decided he's not going to do it. And we made no solution. I remember he came back with a schooner full of brooms. And they went all through some streets, street order, and they sweep them out. And it was the other. We had 3 political parties. We had the Barbarians Party, PMP, we were the Daughters Party, and Motley Party. But none of that is taught to none of the youngsters. The only thing that is there's 2 parties, but the Party
The educational system, the educational system, the formal educational system, kind of restrict, especially at the secondary.
No, we always talk about education. Now listen,
The only way
we had and Tom Adams and all of those called themselves the young something. And Bar came up with a slogan, how long is too long?
It's good.
Heaven is good. And they turned that around and said it was too old. They should let the young people take the government. And what happened? Everything went down there from there.
What's your name?
George.
George is raising some interesting areas within the more professional things that was raised in like one, how the youth is recognized, how the elderly is recognized, how understanding how change occurs, and fundamentally the challenges that we still face in our education system. And I'm going to recognize 2 more voices. Brief voices. I'll give Sister Eurekah, Sister Apotec, and Denny.
Firstly, to acknowledge what you said, my brother, is that we have for so long relied on government to educate our children. That is where the problem is. The problem is that we need to educate them ourselves. Our children will spend 6 hours a day in school, and we would expect them to teach them African history. It ain't going to happen now, never. So what we need to do is set up our own groups, because what you have in history, you could teach them the history. Yes, you could teach them history.
Write your story.
Right, yes.
Write your story.
We have to write our own story. They can document it.
Tape it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we have to do.
What also happened as far as I come up with school?
Yes.
Most of the children start getting children.
Yes.
And most of the kids were not raised by grandparents.
No.
All of that went up the.
Yes. It's evolving, it's changing. But we have to
Tom
now
Adams said
do something about it.
when he took office. No, I'm not for no party. I'm only speaking facts.
For sure.
Kelowna Road, where Barry used to live. Tom Adams says no prime minister should not, no kind of SHI around them.
Yes.
So Kelowna farm went to Barry used to raise pigs, sheep, whatever. They were agriculture there.
Yes.
Everybody had a little pig. Then they passed laws that you can't even got a chicken now in your backyard.
And what are we going to do about it? We can complain and complain and complain.
No, it's not the part of
what are we going to do about it, though?
It's the part that politicians forget where they come.
But no, their houses, they forget they've lost their way. So it's up to us to educate those teenagers, those young people, those young children having children. We have to take it by the horn and say, you know what, this is our history. That's what
even the music, listen, there's nothing. I come back home to hear our musicians arguing about this is wrong and that. There's nothing wrong in music, just like how you talk about. Because everybody doesn't have the same feeling in music. So each interpretation is different. But you'll find everybody wants song the same way. This means that they're competing. Shouldn't compete, should unite.
Just say how the program started and then we had some.
Same thing
with one gatherer over here. I think sister.
One more point. My book's for sale.
Oh yeah.
It's usually $12. I think for $10 tonight.
Okay, so if you like copy, please.
No problem. I'll take one.
Okay. This is for Eurekah. I just
You better come up.
come out. Woman, you are Eurekah, and giving Eurekah a different meaning. God is spiritual ancestor. Creating again, creation anew from the old, for me, for you. Eurekah, woman, goddess, spiritually ancestors, breathing out as we breathe in that energy that the ancestors gave. Eurekah, sharer of positive vibes and energy. Circle of love. You are love because you have love, and love heals. Love is healing.
I really enjoy your session. I think it was very good. But Brother President, I really enjoy your session, and I think that we need other sessions on Arabic because I think we need to go beyond what you are saying. I think we need a session. I also think we need to examine that political period for us in the Caribbean, maybe in the early 1960s, and then bring it forward. In that, we need to examine what happened in Guyana with the British and St. James. We need to examine what happened in Jamaica with Mike Mali and Democratic Socialism. We need to examine what happened in Grenada with Morris Bishop and the Grenada Revolution. And we also need to look back at the black uprisings in Trinidad, and maybe to look at the book by Sarah James that was like the guiding light for our Regions Party, the book in Party Politics. I think we need to examine those documents, and so that we will have a clear picture, a clear understanding of that political history for that period.
Greetings, family. I'm just hearing something from out your mouth.
Greetings.
Spirit, oh, living God, fall fresh on me. Spirit of the living God, fresh on me. Truly, it is because mercies seen and unseen that we are yet alive. And we are asking you all to come out from time to time and to share your knowledge, share your wisdom. Don't think about university and somebody who's a gardener. You'll be amazed at the wisdom of a gardener. You'll be amazed. This is not the wrap-up, but I just want to give you all thanks for coming out, and in a special way, this woman here has so much talent. We would like to see more of Sister Joy coming forward and taking command of the ship.
I heard it said that to whom revelations is given, responsibilities is demanded. If you know, you can no longer sit. Brother Trevor and Sister Eurekah, all of you, thank you for coming out. And Sister Joy asked about next week. Sometimes I don't even know my name. Much less know what next week is. But it flows, you know, it flows. This evening, this is first time I'm seeing you, beloved. Welcome every time and every time. And any one of you who are new, we were there from the beginning and the foundation of time. You have enough food to eat, you have enough music to be played, and more discussions to flow. Ashe.
Ashe.
Did you say our answer?
Brother Trevor, again, is one of the principal people as well for calling for an academy. Because too many of us, we speak about Pan-Africanism, but we do not have common grounding. So this is one of the sessions whereby we can try and synchronize our thoughts. So again, for Brother Trevor and all of those who of you who could be instrumental in shaping a study group or whatever it is for us to come together, feel free. And take over Friday night. Don't wait for me. Take it over.
Ethiopia.